So good evening, everyone. My name is David Shaw. I'm the Senior Vice President of International and Content for the UFC. Just want to start off, I guess, a quick thank you, a warm and hearty thank you to Bob Nicholson, to Kevin Lowe, the rest of the Oilers Entertainment Group. This week was very smooth working with these guys, and as you guys can tell, this is definitely one of the best arenas that we've ever been to. So thank you very much to all of those people for helping us make this event a success. A solid night in Edmonton. Gate was 2.03 million USD, 2.46 million Canadian. The attendance was 232 for a sellout here. In terms of the bonuses, fight of the night went to Stevens and Melendez, and performances went to Cejudo and Rafael dos Anjos. Had a few transports with Mitch Clark, Gavin Tucker, and Gil Melendez. Open it up now, I guess, for questions to the group.
And since you mentioned Gavin was transported, obviously, a ton of criticism of the non-stoppage by the referee in that fight. Can you just speak to it? Because I think a lot of people were worried about this commission, given the recent death of Tim Hague. Just what did you think about that? Was there any talks with the commission afterwards just about that, the referee's job in that fight?
Yeah, I had a chance to chat with Mark Ratner briefly about it. I think his position was it might have been a bit late as well. I think he shared the same thoughts as maybe you're insinuating. So I guess from our perspective, the commission's got a job to do. It sounds like they did their job. I don't know if we saw that referee again over the course of the evening. Gavin was a warrior, though. I mean, even in that last 10 seconds, you saw him sort of pounding his chin, and I guess projecting his strength. But he definitely took a beating. Yeah,
and it seems like largely the rest of the night was okay. But is there any concerns about maybe seeing some improvement from this commission before coming back to this market again?
I think, by and large, I talked to Mark as well. I mean, he's the best guy to provide that perspective. And he was very happy with the way that the week went. I think, as I mentioned to you earlier in the week, we've had discussions with them for quite some time. And so I think there's a relationship there between Reed and Ratner. So, I think in terms of whether or not we're going to come back and have another show in Edmonton, we'd love to, for a variety of reasons. But I think, from the perspective of the commission working closely with Mark and the rest of his team, I think, it's our view that they did a good job with us this week.
And you just announced a sellout. Is it safe to assume then that there wasn't many refunds after the Demetrius Johnson-Ray Borg fight was called off?
There was an inflow of refunds, I guess, yesterday morning. The nice thing was, I guess, due to the success of some of the events that we had this week, we had a large number of sales over the last 2 days, especially today, exceeding the number of refunds. So yes, there were refunds, but we had sales to overcome those.
Awesome. And last thing, I don't know if you're aware of this or if you saw it, but it looks like a fan jumped the barrier and rushed the octagon, and I think it was the 5th round in the main event.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea what happened there?
No, I didn't see that. On which side?
It was on this side, closest to us on press row, so by the walkout area.
Okay. Didn't see that.
Cool.
I just had 2 quick ones. I'm just always curious about the refund thought process, and it didn't seem, obviously it was sold out. Do you have a number, like, is it 50 people, is it 10 people? How many people actually take that offer?
I think in this case, I don't know what the total number was. It was under 1,000. I think it was more than 100. It was a few hundred most likely. No one was really concerned. I mean, you're always, a little worried. You don't want there to be a rush on people, getting rid of their tickets, especially in the last 48 hours before a fight. But I think that generally, it's the first time in this market, and this is a very sort of rich, very deep sports city. I mean, look at the celebration of sports that were going on tonight between our event and the Stampeders and the Eskimos. I'm not sure what their ticket number was. But I think overall, the total number of tickets sold in the city tonight was a fairly large figure. So for us, there was no real massive concern, but we were very conscious of whether or not tickets were going to come back in. But thankfully, I think there was enough publicity and enough sort of attraction to the event that people bought tickets on the way through.
And also wondering, because it was such a great success for not only the company but the arena and the city, first time, is there a date or a time frame in place for the return? It seems like everyone really enjoyed working together.
Yeah. Have
there been any talks this week of that?
I mean, there's the kind of whimsical would love to be back.
Okay.
There's no date set in stone. We are in Winnipeg, in Manitoba, in mid-December for an FBC fight. We plan to have 3 events in Canada next year, probably the same formats as this year, a pay-per-view and maybe an FBC and a fight night. Don't know when we're going to come back to Alberta. I think we'd love to. I mean, it's always on the radar. Ever since 149, it's been on the radar for Calgary. Things just haven't aligned properly to get back there. Tom Wright had always had chats with Bob Nicholson about coming here. We've been speaking to him for many months. It made a lot of sense. There's no doubt in my mind that we'll be back. I just don't know. We just don't, have a time frame yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And last quick one. It might be a little early, but I'm wondering if, just from a Canadian perspective, you've noticed maybe a reignition of the market with the return of GSP. Maybe that happens only when he returns, but have you noticed at all a greater interest in the product because he is soon to return?
Yeah, I mean, we've got, people kind of clamoring for information about, when are the media days going to be and when's he going to fight and what kind of access they can get. There's no doubt in my mind that having George back will be, I guess, a shot in the arm for the Canadian business. He's always been a fantastic ambassador of not only our sport and our brand, but I think Canadian athletics in general. I mean, how many years in a row did he win that Rogers Sportsnet of the Year, Athlete of the Year award? So for us, we're excited. It's very nice. We went through the process with the Mayweather-McGregor fight and speaking to all our pay-per-view partners, and while they were exceptionally excited for the Mayweather-McGregor event, they always wanted to talk about George. So there's no doubt that everyone's looking forward to that. Hopefully it's sort of, the kind of catalytic event that brings, our fans together. That type of event that helps, MMA gyms flourish, people get more interested in the sport. We sort of need to make sure that at a grassroots level, we're always doing whatever we can to make sure that the sport is growing. So there's no doubt that, it's going to be a great event having him back. I mean, even tonight we had practically had half of the Oilers. We had the first 3 lines of the Oilers in Dana's section. And those guys, I mean, I must have been asked 2 or 3 times about that fight, so they're looking forward to that as well. Yes, sir.
I guess in terms of balancing the demand for UFC in Western Canada, I guess for you guys, is it a challenge, I guess, figuring out when to go to Vancouver, Edmonton, or Calgary next, specifically in terms of their proximity to each other and the ability and, like, I imagine, the propensity of fans to travel from one market to the other depending on who gets a show?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into the decision, go into the formula of which city we go to at which time and which fighters we have to compete on those cards. We've been lucky to have very strong events in all of the cities that you mentioned. For us, we know that there are a lot of fans that do travel to the events, but we also know that there's a very sort of deep base of MMA fans in all of those regions. So, I don't really know. We don't have a strict formula yet for what city is going to come. We want to make sure we're taking our sport, from Western Canada, from BC all the way to Atlantic Canada and Eastern Canada, and everywhere in between as often as we can. The challenge is we've got 3 events in Canada likely next year, and we just can't be everywhere all the time. So we'll continue to look at markets we haven't been to in a while and make some decisions likely in the next few months. Any other questions? Thanks, everybody.